Welcome again to this video clip series that I'm calling My Journey to God in a Very Secularized World. And I would like to continue in this topic of the reaction of many Catholics in this period, in this very difficult period, in which, as I had read before in a video clip, due to, as the prophecy of St. Francis of Assisi, that since so many Catholics were not willing to trust the Church and to live the Ten Commandments as the Church explained, in particular through sexuality, or a very, very terrible punishment that God sent us is to give us a false pope, not canonically elected, who basically says, do whatever you want. No more rules. We're all free. Finally, we're free. And that, as we explained before, that's actually our greatest destruction, because God gave us the Ten Commandments for our good, not for our harm. And it's, you might think of it this way, that like when I bought a new car, a Fiat here in Italy, and with the car comes a book of instructions. Well, I can do like so many people do today. This rebellion, I'm free, I can do whatever I want. Freedom, freedom was understood 50 years ago. Freedom was understood 50 years ago to be able to do what is good, to be able to get to heaven with your freedom. Now it's understood license to do whatever you want. And so here's my car, I got the instructions, it's my car, I can do whatever I want. So I'll put Coca-Cola instead of gasoline, because I'm free, it's my car. That's exactly what people are doing today, because sex is very, very powerful, very powerful. How we use that power is one of the main determinations where we will spend eternity. Our Lady of Fatima said that the principal sin that people are in hell for are sins of the flesh. And so you can use it's like a house. It's like fire. You can use fire to heat up your house in the winter, or you can use fire to burn down the house. Sex is very powerful. If it's used according to the instructions of the one who created us, then it produces tremendous fruits. We become fulfilled. We have a nice family, children, society, and true happiness inside. Whereas if we use it the way we want in our own freedom, we end up burning down the house. We end up destroying ourselves, destroying those near us, and the family, and everything. And so this is a real period in this, that so many people have done exactly this, and this, you might say, rebellion in this time. Also, another tendency here was many Catholics, they see the problems in the church, as I had talked about before, and they say, well, we got to straighten this out. And like I talked about before, about finding a perfect priest or perfect group, or also straighten everybody else out. Not looking at myself, but straighten everybody else out, and forgetting that, as Jesus said in the gospel, we want to straighten out the other person, but we don't see the speck in our own eye. And we're really in the most difficult period in the history of the world. And that's why, really, God has chosen Mary in this period for the purification of the church. And so we really truly have to have that humility to pray much to Mary, to say, Mary, help me to fulfill the role that you have for me in this period, to arrive at the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. So many people, they want to take it in their own hands. We got to do this, we got to criticize that, we got to condemn that. And because Mary truly is she is, you might say, Mary is the great general with more than 5 stars. Like in the wars, 5-star general is the highest, but Mary has 12 stars. She's the woman clothed with the sun and 12 stars on her head, the moon on her feet, and she's in the great battle with the great red dragon that you can read about in the book of Revelations chapter 12. And so what I'm saying is we got to have that attitude of humility. The solution is not myself or Don Minutella or Don Laurent or Bishop Feli or Lefebvre. We got to have that humility to let Mary organize the army that in the end will crush the head of the serpent and all of his followers, as the proto-gospel, Genesis 3:15. Because you think about it, you know, with the Ark of the Covenant in the Old Testament, the walls of Jericho came tumbling down. Joshua 5:13 to chapter 6. Think about now, though, we're in a much greater situation. Now, the Ark of the Covenant of the New Testament is Mary, who carried in her womb God for 9 months. The real Ark of the Covenant. She had God, not just the Ten Commandments in the Ark of the Covenant as in the Old Testament. And many times in the Blue Book, Our Lady tells us that we priests must become little children in the arms of Mary. And this is repeated many times by Don Stefano Gobi. He would say we priests would become little babies of 2 months in the arms of Mary, and let Mary totally guide us. It is Our Lady who God has chosen to crush the head of the serpent, as we read in the book of Genesis. You might say that Jesus lived for 30 years in the hidden life with Mary and Joseph. He spent 3 years in his public life and 3 hours on the cross to redeem the world. This is not the moment to organize a revolution against against the Roman Empire. Today it would be called the New World Order, like Barabbas tried to do 2,000 years ago. It's the moment to be with Jesus on the cross and Mary at the foot of the cross in this period of purification of the church that you can also read about. By the way, I want to just repeat this too. In the Catechism of the Catholic Church, that great gift that Pope John Paul II gave us, published in 1992 or 93, in that book, the full version, read, speaking about the purification of the church, read paragraphs 675 to 677 that talk about how just as Jesus went through the passion and then the resurrection, so too the body of Christ, the church, will go through the passion and crucifixion and to arrive at the purification of the church. And it's interesting also, look at this. Jesus, having done perfectly the will of the Father, Jesus lost almost all of his followers here on earth. And we don't want to do that. We want to have followers. We want to have, we're great. He was humiliated publicly on the cross. And he suffered more than we could possibly imagine. And Jesus, he was a priest on the cross. And often in the Blue Book, one finds the words of our Heavenly Lady, who prepares her priests for the same vocation of Jesus Christ, our immolation with Jesus. It comes to mind also thinking about in the early church. The early church, Jesus died on the cross, and that was the redemption of the whole world. And the early Christians of the first three centuries, there were over 1 million martyrs. How did these early Christians end up being able to convert the entire Roman Empire? Because think about this. You know, the Roman Empire treated the poor and the weak very, very badly. When the poor and the weak are treated very, very badly, what is the normal reaction when you're treated bad, you're stomped on? Isn't it not resentment? Revenge? That's normal. But what did the true Christians do? They were stomped on, treated bad, they were killed, they were martyred. What did the early Christians do? They actually loved their enemies. They actually prayed for those who were killing them. They actually offered all up to the Father as Jesus did. And this was what converted the Roman Empire. How many Christians today are willing to do the same thing? We don't want to do what Our Lady is saying in the Message to the Gobi, that we have to go to Calvary with Jesus. This is the purification of the church, not to organize a group or criticize that one or this and everything else. So let us pray very much to Our Lady to have true humility. And I want to encourage you to read a meditation very slowly from the Messages of Gobi to Our Lady. I put it on my website, slowly every day, because Mary will help us prepare for this period and to be truly in her hands, which she needs us to arrive at the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary in preparation for the second coming of Christ. Humility and suffering. You think about it on the cross. When you look at the crucifix, I see two incredible virtues there with Jesus. One, he suffered. The true suffering, true love has to be always connected with suffering. Otherwise, it's false, as you read also in the diary of Saint Faustina. And then the other thing is that Jesus was totally humiliated. He was almost totally naked, and he was considered the worst criminal on the face of the earth. Are we willing to do the same for our salvation and the salvation of others and the purification of the church? Or do we want to be the leaders and have a group and condemn everybody else, and we will save the church ourselves? So listen to Our Lady. Listen to Our Lady. Our Lady will form her little children, and if we do not become little children, we will not enter into the kingdom of heaven. May God bless you and Mary guide you.